Hello, welcome back to part 2 of chapter number 14, Natural Resources. This is from the class 9 CBSE NCERT book. My name is Avantika. I hope you have seen part 1 before this because we have talked about what natural resources are and what is the importance of them. And in this, we are going to be talking about other resources. So please keep your books open and so that you can actually correlate with whatever is going on in the video. So let's proceed. So this is what we learned in the previous part. We learned that Earth has resources that support life. Resources are land, air, water, and energy from the sun. The atmosphere is made up of air, lithosphere is land, hydrosphere is water, and these together plus the life that exists on it is called biosphere. So atmosphere keeps the temperature of the earth at an optimum level for life to exist properly. Uneven heating of air over land and water bodies causes winds. So we talked about sea breeze and land breeze. So sea breeze is during the day and land breeze at night in the coastal areas. Evaporation of water from water bodies and subsequent condensation gives rain, and rainfall patterns depend on prevailing wind conditions. This is what we saw in the past part. In this part, we'll start with air pollution. So you have seen, if you see news, if you ever follow news with your parents, which you should, because if you don't get the habit of seeing news right now, it becomes very difficult when you're older, and it's always good to know what is going on in the world. Makes you more interesting as a person. So in the news, we keep seeing that the levels of oxides of nitrogen and sulfur keep increasing. People keep talking about how the air pollution is increasing and kabhi fog hota hai, smog hota hai. We talk about what that is, and we keep talking about the quality of air. So when oxides of nitrogen and sulfur, so NOx, where X refers to 2, 3, 4, whatever, it can also refer to 1. So it depends on the valency. We have talked about valency now. Depends on the valency of the or the compound. So NO2, NO3, जो भी NO3 nitrate ion होता है. So we say NOx in general or SOx. These are oxides of nitrogen and sulfur, and because of these the quality of air decreases. So I'm sure you have seen in the past few months, if you are watching this, I don't know when you're watching this, I recorded this in December. So in the late October and early November, so this happened very recently, we keep seeing how Delhi keeps getting polluted every year because of the air, because of the smoke that comes to the air. And we talk about the AQI. So the AQI of Delhi keeps being in the severe range. It is in the red zone. It is really, really bad for health. And why does it happen? It happens because there is stubble burning in the farms of Punjab and Haryana, and the winds flow towards Delhi, and therefore all of that gets aggregated in Delhi, and Delhi becomes choked with air pollution. Right, so people are trying to find ways that have alternatives to the stubble burning. There's a lot of reasons. You should know what stubble burning is and why that happens, and what are the why farmers started burning their stubble in the first place. What are the options? You should know all these things. Thoda general idea hona chahiye. So this happens every year. Every year in after paddy is cultivated and the stubble of the paddy is left, what can the farmers do? So they burn it because the next crop has to be planted really quickly. So they don't have time for all the other things, so they just burn it. And this wind carries the smoke to Delhi, and then Delhi chokes on that air, right? So this year it was a double whammy, right? COVID and then this smoke. And not only is, so that's an example, but in general, this is caused by air pollution is caused by fossil fuel burning, coal, petroleum. Vehicular pollution is a big thing. Then you have coal burning. So coal burning for thermal power plants, that is also a huge um, source of air pollution. So small amounts of nitrogen and sulfur are produced when burned, right? They fossil fuels have small amounts of nitrogen and sulfur which produce oxides when burnt. Burning is combustion in the presence of oxygen. They produce oxides of nitrogen and sulfur, and that is harmful for a lot of things. Basically, it is pollution. So these inhalation of these gases is very dangerous for the lungs. It can cause a premature decay of the lungs, or it can cause a lot of breathing issues. So people say that in Delhi, if you breathe that air, it's close to like smoking 50 cigarettes a day. And everybody knows that smoking is bad for health. So imagine smoking even when you don't like to smoke, So it is that bad. It is very, very bad. Hmm. Also, this also gives acid rain. So when these oxides dissolve in water, they form acids. So nitric acid is HNO3 and sulfuric acid is H2SO4. So this is basically when oxides of nitrogen and sulfur they react with water, they give acids. And many years ago there was a very big issue of Agra mein Taj Mahal was being, it started getting brown, and it was also a problem of what if this acid. So you know what marble is? Marble is calcium carbonate, and it was always, so there was a problem that calcium carbonate is a salt, is a base, right? So carbonate and of a salt, so carbonate of calcium, and that could react with nitric acid or H2SO4, and that could degrade the marble. So that was a big problem. So they have there's a zone around Taj where they are not allowed to have any industries, any polluting industries like this. So this acid rain is very harmful for buildings, very harmful for people, very harmful for the environment because it makes water acidic. And burning of fossil fuels also gives suspended particulate matter. So there is, when it burns, it is not only the gases or the vapors that are removed, but there are also small particles that are very, very small, and they get suspended in the air, right? They are bigger than molecules, but they are small, very tiny particles. And these are generally unburnt carbon particles or substances called hydrocarbons, right? And these reduce visibility, especially in the cold. So what happens is when water vapor, we have talked about how rain is formed, we have talked about how this experiment that we did in the first part, we talked about in the first part, that there is if you put smoke into a water bottle, then you can see formation of clouds, and that is exactly what happens. So there is suspended particulate matter which is called SPM, and this acts as a nucleus for water vapor in the cold, right? In the cold, what air is dense, and therefore if this moist air, it is dense, therefore it is sitting near the surface. And then if it is moist, the moisture gets condensed on this nucleus of suspended particulate matter, and it causes something called smog. Smog is smoke plus fog. So you have fog and you have smoke. The suspended particulate matter is part of smoke, right? So both of these things together form smog, and that is a visible indicator of air pollution. A lot of times you will see that the air is hazy in December and all. If you're ever on a flight over Delhi especially, you will be able to see that the visibility down to the ground is very, very bad. And that is an indicator of air pollution. There is a lot of smog. It is not just fog, but it is fog, which is, what is fog? Fog is water vapor. Water vapor that is dense because of the cold, and therefore it is near the surface of the earth. And in this case, it is smog because it is smoke plus fog, and that is harmful for the environment and harmful for us, because regular breathing of these substances can cause increased incidences of cancer, heart disease, and lung problems, right? So this is air pollution. An increase in the content of such harmful substances in the air is called air pollution. Everybody knows what pollution is. Pollution बहुत बढ़ गया. I'm sure your parents keep talking about pollution कितना बढ़ गया. Grandparents बोलते होंगे कि अरे हमारे टाइम में तो इतना pollution नहीं था, and all these things. So an increase in the content of such harmful substances in the air is called air pollution. What kind of substances? You have suspended particulate matter called SPM, right? Which causes smoke plus fog, smog in the winters, especially in North India. And then you have oxides of nitrogen and sulfur in general by themselves, and also mixed with water they form acid rain. So all of these things uh, make up air pollution. And also there is one more air pollutant, ozone. Ozone is when found in the atmosphere, right, much above the surface of the earth. It is very good for the environment. There you have ozone around it. We'll talk about this. And it helps in the prevention of UV radiations coming in and all. But ozone found near the surface of the earth is a pollutant, right? Ozone is O3. We're going to talk about this in the next part. So all of these things when found in the atmosphere and the air that we breathe is called air pollution. Lichens, there's something called lichens. I don't know if you have ever seen lichens. Unless you have been to a jungle or a forest, you will not have seen lichens, because they don't grow around in cities. And why do they not grow around in cities? Is because of pollution. They are Lichens are a symbiotic association between an alga and a fungus. So algae and fungus and fungi together, one alga and one fungus together, they form an association. So the algae is performing photosynthesis and giving food to the fungus, and the fungus is giving nutrients to the alga and also giving protection to the alga, right? So therefore it is called a symbiotic association. Symbiosis means which is beneficial for both of them. So both of them are benefiting from this association, and that is why it is called a symbiotic association, and they form one organism which is called lichen. So lichen is not a separate, it is a separate organism, but it is made up of two different organisms. Okay. And so if you ever been to jungles, you'll see something like this or this, right, growing on tree tops or growing on rocks. These are called lichens, and these form a greenish white crust or have leaf like structure like this. And you can't see lichen growing in places especially where there is sulfur based pollution. So vehicular pollution, industrial pollution jahan hota hai, you will not see lichen. You will see lichen if you go to especially if you go to like jungles or western ghats and all, you'll see a lot of lichens, right? Or you will see when there is, especially when it's more humid, you'll see lichens, right? It is found on the barks. It's very common inside jungles where there's no pollution, but where there is pollution, you will not be able to see lichen. If you see even on the roadsides of jungles, agar jungle ke road side hai jahan pe where there is traffic going through those roads, you will not see lichen, but deep inside you will find it, right? It is not very uncommon, but you will not be able to see it because of pollution. Especially it is a bio indicator, especially of sulfur based pollution, right? Okay, so these are the points I told you. Now we come to water. Water is called a wonder liquid, right? Water occupies 75% of the earth's surface and also underground reservoirs. We talked about hydrosphere. Some water is also found as water vapor in the atmosphere. Most of the water found on the surface is found in seas or oceans. That is saline water. What is saline? It has a lot of salt content. That is why it is saline. Fresh water, something that has less salt content and something that we can drink. It is found only in rain-fed lakes, canals, ponds, rivers, or frozen at the poles and or mountains. So ice is fresh water. Rain-fed lakes, canals, ponds, rivers, all these rivers that we have are all fresh water. Those that are dependent mostly on rainwater or glaciers or ice, they're all fresh water. बाकी सब जो सी होता है, अरेबियन सी, बे ऑफ बंगाल, पैसिफिक ओशन, अटलांटिक ओशन, all of these are saline. So availability of fresh water. Now you have to understand that there's a lot of water on earth, but most of the water is saline. So availability of fresh water becomes a problem. काफी बार ऐसे होता है in the summers especially, you see that the reservoirs have gone down and there is very little water to drink, right? That is the problem, and we cannot use saline water because you have to, people do use saline water, they have to undergo, the water has to undergo desalination and all of that. So that does happen in places, but most of the times we are dependent on fresh water, which is limited and varies from place to place. There are places which have droughts. There are places like northern parts of India, such as Haryana, Rajasthan, even middle parts such as like Madhya Pradesh. Some places are arid because they have less rainfall, right? So the fresh water can become a problem, right? There are some places which are very rich in fresh water. For example, where it keeps raining in northeast India, especially northeast India or the Western Ghats or Kerala and all these places where there's a lot of tropical rainforest, where they're near the coasts, or we talked about monsoons in the last slide. So where there's a lot of rainfall, there is availability of fresh water. And every summer, most of the time, we have some or the other shortage of water, and especially rural areas which often have water sources that are really far off and need to spend a lot of time fetching water from far off sources, right? So why water is really important for human life, and you are dependent on fresh water. Why is water a necessity? You can survive weeks without food, but you cannot survive more than 3 days without water. You will die first of dehydration and then of starvation. Starvation can be taken care of, right? For weeks nothing will happen to you if you have water, right? So all cellular processes in all organisms take place in the medium of water. Your body is made up of majorly of water. Your cells have cytoplasm. We have talked about cytoplasm and all of that. Cytoplasm has water. All of the compounds that are found in your body are most of the compounds are dissolved in water. Solution of water, there is water plus salts, but there is the basis of all this, a solvent for all of this is water. So you are water based, you are carbon and water based. Not you, just me also. We all of us are carbon and water based. All reactions in our body and within our cells occur between substances dissolved in water. Transportation within the body also happens in the dissolved form. Even in plants or animals, whatever transportation, in animals, transportation occurs through the blood and all these things, right? So blood is also made up of water. You have to keep drinking water all through the day, otherwise you get dehydrated, right? Plants require so much water. That is why they grow such deep roots that need water all the time. So all of these things require water. And a level of water needs to be maintained in the body to ensure that these processes happen properly. Terrestrial life forms need fresh water and they cannot tolerate high amounts of salt. Terrestrial life forms that live on land, right? There are life forms in this in the oceans and in seas where the water is saline. They can bear salt because of different adaptations that they have to the salt content in the water. But us, for example, terrestrial life forms like us, we cannot tolerate high salt content in water. If you should not drink water from the seas or oceans because they have high water content. What they do is, we have spoken about osmosis. They can cause osmosis. They can dehydrate the organs of our body, and that can cause a lot of problems. And there's a lot of the ions that are found. They also help in transportation, sodium, potassium, and all of that. Then transportation in the body can also be disturbed. So all of these things can happen when there's a high salt amount of salt. Therefore we cannot tolerate high salt content in water. We need fresh water. Marine organisms live in, what are marine organisms that live in these oceans or basically in saline water? Oceans and seas, they live in high salt content. These are called marine organisms. So freshwater sources need to be easily accessible to terrestrial animals and terrestrial plants. There are some plants that are called halophiles that also grow in high salt content, but most of the plants can only tolerate salt to a certain extent for the same reasons like us. Places that have less water have less biodiversity. This is a supposition. There's a generalization that less water, less biodiversity, and this is actually true. But of course, biodiversity depends on a lot of other things, but water is a big part of that. It's one of the most important reasons for biodiversity, because more water, not a lot of water. Like if you have a lot of water, you have marshes and all, then again biodiversity decreases. But if you have optimum water, like the tropical rainforest and all, then there is high biodiversity. Like most of the biodiversity in areas of optimum water availability. And this can also be seen especially after rainfall. So if you live in I don't know how many of you live in the Western Ghats or other places, or in especially in Western Ghats or somewhere along the coastal areas. You will see a drastic difference if you travel along the Ghats before rainfall and after rainfall. Immediately after two spells of rain, you have green hills. So you see that water is very important for life. Immediately जैसे ही पानी आता है, the grass starts to grow, everything becomes green, everything starts to grow, flowers start to bloom, right? So that is why water is very important for everything, for biodiversity, for natural life processes. Of course, there are, as I said, there are other factors that affect biodiversity. For example, topography or the wind pattern or whatever there is. Water is one of the most important factors. So these are two maps. There is an activity in your book in which they're telling you to compare maps of areas. So I just thought I'd just put two maps and we'd compare them. So you can see where this is the biodiversity map. This is forested area, right? And you can see very high is dark green, and as you go up it becomes orange. So this is low density, this is very high density, right? This is also very high density. यहाँ पे भी high density है. So how do you see this? What do you correlate this with? Look at this. Dark blue, dark blue, dark blue. It correlates directly with very high biodiversity and very high rainfall. This is very high rainfall. Look, this is above 400 centimeters annual rainfall. Okay. So you see that these are directly correlated. यहाँ पे भी even in the Himalayas you can see that the biodiversity is directly correlated. यहाँ पे ये है, फिर यहाँ पे ये है, ऐसा, right? You see all of this? This is all correlated. All of water, and here you see orange, you see low biodiversity, you see low rainfall, right? You see uh, low rainfall here. ठीक है. एंड बाकी जहाँ पे थोड़ा मीडियम है देन यू कैन सी यहाँ पे देर आर सम अदर वेरिएशंस, रीजनल वेरिएशंस की वजह से. दिस इज द कोस्टल रीजन, दिस इज ओडिशा ना. ओडिशा में देर आर कोस्टल, near the coastal areas there's a large amount of biodiversity, and as you go further inland it becomes more and more arid. यहाँ पे less water है, यहाँ पे therefore there is less biodiversity, less water and less biodiversity. Okay, so there are basic correlations of water and biodiversity. You can see these maps properly. You can make your own observations. Okay. So now we come to water pollution. Water, as you know, is a very good solvent, right? Water is slightly polar. We don't have to know about that. But water is a very good solvent. Water can dissolve a lot of things. Water also dissolves a lot of fertilizers and pesticides which are used in farms. Right? Most of these pesticides and fertilizers are actually dissolved in water, and they dissolve in water, and they when it rains they move away with the rains, right? It starts to rain and there is water flowing around the fields and all, and the water starts to seep. It seeps in the ground or it moves towards the water bodies, so that is called runoff. And this runoff of water can a lot of times carry fertilizers and pesticides which are used in the farm. Now not only these, but there are also sewage from the cities. Sewage from the cities is a big part. Like sewage from the cities, you can imagine how with the number of people that are living, it's a big problem. Then there is waste from the factories are also dumped in rivers and lakes. Some industries use water to cool various operations, right? So especially if you, I don't know if you know about nuclear power plants, you use water as a coolant. Coolant ke tarah water is used because of the high, as I, we have spoken about water being able to absorb a lot of heat. That is why it doesn't get heated very quickly, and that is the reason for sea breezes and land breezes. The same property is used in industries where water is used as a coolant. And as water removes heat from something, right? So what happens is, if you have a heating process and you want to cool it, so you run water around it, the water gets heated up and the object gets cooled. Heat transfer ho jati hai, and the water gets heated and this hot water is thrown into the water bodies, and this also increases the temperature. There's also another reason for decrease in temperature. When water is released from dams, the reservoirs are colder than the water at the surface, therefore temperature also decreases. And all of these factors affect life forms in the body, in water bodies. What factors? Temperature and these sewage, waste from factories, and for runoff of fertilizer and pesticides. These are important factors that cause pollution of water, right? You might have heard about Ganga being extremely polluted, right? So the, especially now the Ganga, the, I mean, to clean Ganga has been a very big program by the government, and they tried to clean Ganga. And now it apparently during COVID, because the factories were closed and all, the river in, so the water in the Ganga became so pure that it could actually be, it became potable, you could drink it, right? So this Ganga was polluted. Yamuna is very polluted. If you ever see Yamuna, is the water is, it is known to be black. So Yamuna is known to be black even mythologically. But more than that, you could see froth and foam and all these things. Our rivers could have become very polluted because of a lot of different things. There's no, the factories that dump their so leather tanneries and all these factories that use chemicals just dump it into water, and they're supposed to have something, some sort of water treatment and all. They do something nominal and they throw it, and that actually causes the water bodies to become dirty, right? Even, and not just that, but even small things like, people throwing rubbish into water, or like I told you about drains and all. So when it rains, the polythene bags get stuck in drains. That all comes from people throwing something in the river, right? And all of that biodegradable waste is covered with polythene. So all of these things happen and contribute to water pollution. Even temperature of water, right? So what it does is that it encourages growth of some life forms and harms others, and the balance is affected. When you have pesticides and fertilizers that run off, what happens is, in a lot of places, especially ponds and all, where there is no running water, where the water is standing. So if you have like something like this and it is filled with water, it is standing, there is no source in and out, it's just filled because of rainwater or something. Or and this also happens in other places where the water is not very flowing very fast. So fertilizers and pesticides, they cause growth of algae, and this algae basically covers the entire surface, and because of that they use up the it's a bit complicated to explain. So the algae, it dies off and it keeps growing, and eventually it starts to die off, and because of the dying, there are certain bacteria which start to decompose that waste, and they use a lot of oxygen, and that causes the oxygen into water bodies to deplete, and because of that a lot of fish and a lot of marine organisms found, not marine in this case because we're talking about ponds that are fed from rainwater, but all those life forms, aquatic life forms, start to die because they don't get enough oxygen, right? So this is how these things affect. You have a lot of fertilizers, pesticides, algal bloom, that causes, eventually causes the plants to die, sorry, the aquatic life forms to die. Then you have sewage, and sewage from factories also say the same thing. Their sewage contains a lot of uh, like sodium, sorry, NPK, nitrogen, potassium, calcium, and all, potassium and phosphorus, and all these things. And because of that, they make the water more enriched with nutrients, which causes plants, the algae, to bloom. And because of the algal bloom, eventually plants die. Sorry, the aquatic life forms start to die. You learn this in higher classes, right? Also, because increase in temperature is also, you will find that because of increase in global water temperatures due to global warming, most of the coral reefs are getting bleached, right? They're losing their color, right, because of heating of water. And the biodiversity of those coral reefs are extremely biodiversity rich places. What are coral reefs? Go and search a little bit about coral reefs. Maybe you have heard of them. So Great Barrier Reef along Australia and other places around, even in India, some places around islands, you always have some coral reefs. Corals are actually organisms that give out this calcareous, we talked about carbonate, so we talked about carbon dioxide being used as shells in the previous part. So a lot of these give out these calcareous exoskeletons, and because of that they form like a colony, and there's very rich in marine animals and all. And because, and these corals are also very beautiful to look at, and this causes, because of temperature increase, it causes coral bleaching, and biodiversity along that places is decreasing. So all of these things cause water pollution, and this is negatively affecting life forms. Water pollution covers the following effects. What does water pollution, what exactly is water pollution? When we talk about it, we talk about addition of undesirable substances to water bodies. For example, fertilizers or pesticides, poisonous substances such as mercury salts used in paper industries, or disease causing organisms such as bacteria that cause cholera. Where does poisonous substances, where does this poisonous substance like mercury come from? From paper industries, industrial waste, right? Disease causing organisms come from the sewage, that is untreated sewage, if it gets mixed up in water bodies, right? We talked about this in what in the previous chapter, right? We talked about cholera. Okay, so mercury, for example, is something. There is a phenomenon called bioaccumulation, and all of this mercury can actually cause something called Minamata disease. That is, that has something happened in Minamata Bay, I think somewhere around Japan, if I am not wrong. You should read about that. So that is, this has caused problems in human bodies also, right? Removal of desirable substances from water bodies. Okay, so removal of so water pollution is addition of undesirable substances, removal of desirable substances. When I talked about what happens if you have addition of undesirable substances, you have fertilizers that go into water bodies. Because of that, algal bloom happens, and because of that, what happens? Algal blooms finally eventually die, right? Because they grow so much that they can't survive anymore. इतना सारे, there's always some amount that can grow, but बहुत हो गया तो it cannot grow. Then it starts to decompose, and the bacteria that decompose that algae use up oxygen that is dissolved in the sea, in the water body, that is called dissolved oxygen. ठीक है? When dissolved oxygen of water body reduces, then the aquatic life forms that are dependent on that oxygen will die, right? So this is exactly what they're talking about: removal of desirable substances from water bodies. Dissolved oxygen is used by plants and animals that live in water. Any change that reduces the amount of dissolved oxygen adversely affects aquatic organisms. Other nutrients can also be depleted, but this is a major problem that happens. Okay, a change in temperature, right? Change, I told you what happens when the water changes. Aquatic forms are used to a certain range of temperatures where they live, and they cannot survive if the range is exceeded. We have talked about poikilotherms and homeotherms. These are poikilotherms, right? So they cannot adjust their body temperatures according to change in environment. Therefore, if it exceeds or if it goes down, they die. Eggs are especially susceptible because there are some animals in which the sexes of those organisms are dependent on the temperature. So a lot of times what happens, there will only be a lot of males or be a lot of females, and then there is the number of new generation decreases. Okay, if there's a lot of males and if there are less females, then there will be fewer babies. If there are more females and more less males, again there will be fewer babies because they might not be able to mate properly. The balance gets all messed up, right? So change in temperature causes coral bleaching, causes change in genders of organism, and all these things happen, and that can be very dangerous for the life forms that are found. So now we come to mineral riches in soil. We're done with water, and now we come to mineral riches in soil. What is soil? Soil is an important resource that is responsible for deciding the diversity of life in an area. ठीक है? How is soil formed? What is soil? Soil is this mixture of particles of different size in which plants grow. How is soil formed? The outermost layer of the earth is called crust, like we spoke about lithosphere. So the outermost layer of earth is called the crust. Outer crust is lithosphere, and the minerals found in the crust supply a variety of nutrients. There's a lot of minerals, a lot of metals, a lot of inorganic metals that are found, inorganic compounds that are found in the crust, and these supply a variety of nutrients, but these are found in rocks. They are bound up in rocks. Now those that are bound up in rocks, they cannot be used by plants. Okay, so what happens is that over thousands or millions of years, the rock the rock or near the surface of the earth, hmm, the rock at or near the surface of the earth are broken down by various physical, chemical, and biological processes. There's a lot of processes that go on which break these rocks down into smaller particles. Okay, this is called weathering. And the end product is the fine particles that make up soil. right? So rocks can be broken down into stones, which can be broken down into pebbles, and which can be broken down further and further and further into very small particles which make up soil. This soil is rich in a lot of nutrients, mineral nutrients that are found in the rocks, that were bound in rocks, and now they have become loose, and that loose powder can now be used by plants to grow, and then they can give us other nutrients, other, like they can give us food and oxygen and all those things. So life becomes possible because of soil. Okay, so factors responsible for breakdown of weathering or rocks are the sun. The first of them is the sun. How does the sun affect rocks? How does this sun affect weathering? What happens is that during the day we talked about how rocks get heated up really quickly. They But they don't all get heated up that quickly, because you have rocks like lying here, ऐसे rocks हैं. So there are some which are directly exposed to sunlight. There are some यहाँ से direct exposure है, right? But these areas here are cooler because they are not directly exposed to sun. That causes uneven heating of the uh, rocks. And this uneven heating, now this will become, it is like this will become of a certain temperature, and these we are of यहाँ पे जो है, the exposed surfaces, they heat up really quickly and they also cool down really quickly. And these that are not exposed, they don't heat up quickly, but they also take time to cool down. So it becomes an uneven heating. And because of that uneven heating and cooling, there are cracks that come into the rocks, and this ultimately leads to huge rocks breaking down. Okay, so they can eventually cracks appear, and then some rocks can break apart. And sometimes what happens when these cracks come and it starts to rain, okay, it starts to rain, the water gets into these cracks, and in cold areas sometimes this water can freeze. What happens when the water freezes? When water freezes, it expands. Water is strange that way. Most of the times what happens when an object is liquid, right, it has more volume, right? And when it is solid, it contracts. But water is weird that way. When water is liquid, it has a certain volume. In ice, that volume increases. So similarly, in this case, when there is cracks, the water goes into these cracks and expands, and the cracks can expand, or it can push the rocks apart. Right? So flowing waters were even the hardest rocks over long periods of time. So this of course happens, the cracks, or when there is rivers, right? And then there are rocks around that. So over millions of, over thousands of years, this can start chipping it off, right? This can start chipping it off. This rock becomes like this, then it rocks becomes like this, right? ऐसे हो सकता है. ठीक है? The shape changes. You must have seen a lot of clips and all. You should see weathering ke phenomena. You can see cliffs. If you have cliffs, like this is water, and these are these huge long cliffs, and you can see some phenomena where it's like this, it's protruding like this. It's because the water has chipped away at it, right? Water, this causes weathering. Flowing water has a lot of kinetic energy, and because of that also it chips away, and also because fast water carries rock particles, right? And these rock particles get impacted with these, there's a lot of impact, and these rub against other particles found in the rock, and it causes abrasion. So it just causes pressure on it, उसको वो hit करता रहता है, and finally small pieces of that big rock also break away. And these smaller particles that break away are further carried away by water, which can further lead to breakdown of other big rocks, right? And water can deposit them further, these small particles further away, or these small particles also rub against each other, and these become finer and finer and become soil, right? रॉक टूटता है, दो स्मॉल पार्टिकल्स रब अगेंस्ट ईच अदर, छोटे 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 हो जाते हैं, एंड दे स्मॉलर एंड स्मॉलर पार्टिकल्स, एंड these particles are deposited further down the stream as sediment, right? Sediment or silt and these things, and that is very nutrient rich. Therefore, a lot of these, they're called alluvial plains and all, that is all based on water. Water के जो sediments है, they are really fertile, and this is really good for the plants and crops that grow, especially in North India में there is this Ganges Ganga plain है. Ganga plain में there is a lot of these fertile plains, the Tarai and ये सारे जो plains हैं, very good for plant growth. ठीक है, तो this is how water can weather. Then the third is wind. Wind works similar to how water wears the rocks down. Wind also carries small particles of sand with it. Both these particles hit other big rock particles and they can chip it up. And you can see in deserts, if you see, I don't remember the name of that place, but there are some places where you can see these mushroom rocks, right? You can see these mushrooms, there's desert everywhere, and there's these mushroom rocks, and nice, very stable. And these are, why was it didn't grow like this? It used to be a proper whole rock, and the wind, it moves in this area, in this direction, it hits them and it becomes like a mushroom rock, right? So that is weathering, and all of that breaking down has led to the formation of the sand that you see around that rock. So that rock is the one that is responsible for the sand formation. Then you also have living organisms. Lichen. We talked about lichen as being bioindicators, especially of sulfur pollution. So lichen growing on the surface of the rocks, they release certain chemical compounds which react with the minerals in the rocks. These chemicals react with minerals and they cause that rock to powder down, and they form a thin layer of soil. Okay, so there is this. Then you have some lichen that starts to grow, right? And then it causes a thin layer of sand to grow, and on then start, then you have other plants that start to grow, and that leads to further, like if you also have roots or roots of big trees. So you have these big trees and you have the roots. So the roots, they come into these big rocks and then they cause cracks. Okay, so this is how they grow. So there is an experiment that you should do. It's called a soil profile experiment. You take some soil, as we have done in school, and I'm sure you must have done it when you were were younger. But if you haven't, you should do this. Take some soil, like a fistful of soil, and then you put it in a bottle. Then you add about 5 times more water. Stir the soil completely and shake it vigorously, right? And allow the soil to settle down. Keep it undisturbed for some time. It will settle down eventually. Is the soil at the bottom of the beaker homogeneous or have layers formed? If layers are formed, how is one layer different from another? Is there anything floating on the surface of water? These are all the questions that you will be able to answer when you do this experiment. Do you think some substances would have dissolved in water? How would you check? Now you should do this. You should actually go out, you should get a handful of soil and you should put it in water and see. You will be able to see this. I've given you some pictures here. So for example, you have these things floating on the surface of water, right? So this is the organic material which is lighter than water. Uh, that is why you can see it is floating on water, right? Then if layers are formed, how is one layer different from the other? Yes, layers form. And what happens is that they deposit according to their size. The heaviest things will deposit at the bottom. You will see everywhere that heavier things have deposited at the bottom, and the top layers, here it is especially more visible. यहाँ पे सब thick है, and as you go further ahead, the particles become smaller and smaller and smaller. So the smallest particles are the lightest particles. There are also a lot of particles that are floating around. These are so thin, they're so small that they are not settling down, right? So the smallest particles are the lightest particles, therefore they remain on top, and these are the heaviest particles here. They settle down at the bottom, right? So you have, this is the pebble or small pebbles, right? Then you have sand layer. Sand is thicker. Then you have silt layer. Silt is very thin. Sand को अगर बहुत पतला करे तो it is silt, and clay is again smaller than silt, right? So you have these layers that form, and then you also have some particles that are suspended here, that is organic material that is lighter than air, lighter than water. And then you also have certain things that are dissolved in this. How can you check? Or you can do this, you can actually do some sedimentation experiment. You can take this water, decant it so that you only have water left, and then you can maybe you can just evaporated water and see if there's anything left behind, right? You have to filter that water first from a filter paper so that these things are filtered out जो floating है, and then you can actually evaporate and see if there's something left behind. This you have done first. हमने second chapter में we had discussed about mixtures में we had talked about this. Okay, so this is how soil is a mixture of different particles of different sizes. कई sizes बड़े होते हैं, कई छोटे छोटे होते हैं. Okay, so soil is a mixture containing particles of rocks of different sizes. Also contains decaying living organisms called humus. When living organisms such as earthworms or such as leaves of different plants or insects or other such things fall down on the soil, they start to decay, right? And this causes humus. Humus is rich in organic material and that causes the soil to be more fertile. Okay. Also has various microscopic life forms, bacteria and all, and also has certain insects such as earthworms and all. So there is a lot of different kinds of soil, and those types depend on average particle size. So you saw that clay is the smallest particle size, then you have silt, then you have sand. Okay, so depending upon the proportion of clay, silt and sand in the mixture, you have different types of soil. Then you have the amount of humus, how much humus is present, and what kind of microscopic organisms are found in it. Okay. Humus is a major factor as it contributes to making the soil more porous. What is porous? It allows the water to percolate down, to come down. नीचे आता है पानी उससे flow कर जाता है, उसको रोक के नहीं रखता. Clay के particles बहुत छोटे होते हैं ना, therefore they make water sit. Clay is not porous. Clay keeps the water. When you have clay, it becomes really dense, right? Because the particles are so small, they hold water, they don't let water flow. Sand on the other hand, desert sand वगैरह जो होती है, it allows water to percolate. Sand will not hold any water, right? There's something called water holding capacity. Silt has the best for plants and all. Clay and sand have, clay has a huge water holding capacity. Sand doesn't have a lot of water holding capacity. Humus, on the other hand, increases porosity, therefore lets air and water penetrate deep underground. Okay. Mineral nutrients of the soil depend on the rock from which it was formed. There are some rocks which have different minerals, and because of the differences in minerals, the soil that forms from that rock will be different from the soil that forms from another rock that has different minerals that are found in the rock. Okay. The nutrient content of the soil, which depends on the type of rock from which it was formed, the depth of soil, how deep it is, okay, and the amount of humus, and these decide which plants grow on the soil. There are some plants that grow in deep soils, there are some plants that grow in shallow soils, then some don't need a lot of nutrients, there are some that need a lot of nutrients, and all these things decide which plants grow on the soil. The topmost layer of the soil, which contains humus and living organisms in addition to soil particles, is called topsoil, right? It is called topsoil. The quality of topsoil is an important factor for determining biodiversity of the area. The more humus, living organisms, or the depth of topsoil contributes to determining biodiversity of the soil. Topsoil जितनी fertile होगी उतने ही ज़्यादा plants grow करेंगे, उस पे depend होगा biodiversity. Okay, topsoil is very important for biodiversity. Modern farming practices use large amounts of fertilizers and pesticides. ठीक है, fertilizers and pesticides can destroy soil structure because they have some chemicals in them which can kill microorganisms that can also affect earthworms that make the soil humus rich. What do the earthworms do? Earthworms, ये जो पत्ते वगैरह गिर जाते हैं, these earthworms are, they eat that, they break it into smaller pieces, and that is humus. Those smaller pieces of patte and all that, that is humus. Earthworms make the soil humus rich, and these chemicals and fertilizers, they can kill microorganisms. Those microorganisms help to recycle nutrients. They help to decay these humus and all organic material जो होता है, and because of that a lot of nutrients that are stuck inside those living forms are made available for the usage by other organisms. That is done by microorganisms, and it is also done by earthworms. So these pesticides वगैरह use करके these things die. Fertile soil can become barren if not utilized sustainably. Uh, if you take if you take fertile soil for granted, it is going to lose its nutritional value eventually. You have to ensure that it is getting the right kind of nutrition. Uh, it is like it is like our body. If we just keep using it without making sure that you are giving it enough food, enough things in return, it is not going to last very long. What is barren? Barren means nothing will grow on it, right? So you have to make sure that there is fertile soil. जब खेती वगैरह होती है, when farming happens, you have to ensure that between two crops there is some amount of time or certain things to ensure that the soil retains its fertility. Okay. Removal of useful, this is the definition of soil pollution. Removal of useful components from the earth and addition of other substances which adversely affect, right, adversely affect the fertility of the soil and kill the diversity of organisms is called soil pollution. Remove useful components, addition of other substances, what kind of substances? Adversely affect fertility of soil and kill diversity of microorganisms. These are called, this thing is called soil pollution. Soil takes millions of years to be formed. जितना हमें soil दिख रहा है, that has caused millions of years. It takes about 1000 years. This is about 1 inch. It takes 1000 years to make this much soil. Think about how much. और इसमें कुछ नहीं grow करेगा 1 inch soil में. Other than the small grasses, nothing will grow. So imagine बड़े बड़े पेड़ों के लिए the kind of soil that is required requires millions of years, right? And the same agents that make soil can also remove fertile layers of soil, and this is called erosion. What is weathering? Weathering is making of soil. Erosion is the removal of topsoil. Okay. So what are the agents that make up soil? Wind, water, and all of these things. Wind, water can also remove thin particles of soil from the top and expose rocks at the bottom on which plants cannot grow. Okay, this is called erosion. So what is soil erosion? We take two identical trays and fill them up with soil. Okay, and this is an experiment that you can do. I don't know if you'll be able to do that, but you should. So these are two identical trays. You fill them up with soil like this. हाँ, एक के ऊपर plant mustard or some sort of plant on this and ensure that it grows properly. पूरा thick grow होता है, and then tilt them both and pour equal amounts of water gently on both trays such that the water flows out of the trays. Study the amount of soil that is carried out of the trays. Is the amount the same in both trays? What will you find? No. जहाँ पे plants grow कर रहे हैं वहाँ पानी कम flow होता है because the plant is holding that water. यहाँ से पानी, इस ट्रे में से पानी तो ऐसे ही निकल जाएगा, इसमें से पानी कम निकलेगा. Now pour equal amounts of water on both these trays from the height. From height क्यों करें? To see how rain water affects it. Pour 3 or 4 times the amount that you poured earlier. ऊपर से डालो and pour 3 or 4 times. You will again see that the amount of soil carried by these two, इसमें से जो amount of soil carried out होगी, इसमें से जो amount of soil will be much less than the amount of soil that is carried out when there is no plants. This shows that plants or trees can hold soil with their roots. Okay, is the amount of soil that is carried out more or less or equal to the amount washed out earlier? When you pour it from the height or when you pour more water, then the amount of soil washed out is much higher. That is what happens out in the rains. So roots of plants have a very important role in preventing soil erosion, which is why when you have large scale deforestations, it destroys biodiversity. How does it destroy biodiversity? You remove forests, not only is it that the houses of the different birds and all is affected, but also because of deforestation, the roots cannot hold the these things, the soil anymore, and it harms the soil health so that things can't grow as well. So अगर आप roots plants निकाल दोगे, the soil moves away, it gets eroded, can harm the soil. In hilly or mountainous area especially, this is very destructive because loosening of soil by deforestation or by construction activities, illegal construction activities भी बहुत होते हैं, can cause serious damage to life and property due to landslides. What happens because of constructions? You have hills and uh, you are breaking them. You are loosening all of this. When you loosen all of this, what happens? It becomes, and you are removing the trees from it. The trees are not able to hold this. It has become loose. You are making it more and more susceptible to landslides and such dangerous things. This is what happened in Kedarnath. If you remember, there's a movie also called Kedarnath which is based on those floods. So Kedarnath का जो shrine था, उसके ऊपर there is so much activity. I don't know if it is illegal or what, but there's so much construction activity that is going on that it is not, the slopes are not stable anymore, and because it rained so high, so much, that there were immense landslides, and a lot of these things got, there was a lot of life, loss of life and property, right? So this is a big problem, and this is very difficult to reverse because एक बार ये soil अगर यहाँ से नीचे आ गई, it comes here, how are you going to take it up now? This, the rocks are exposed because the soil नीचे बह गई. Now how is anything going to grow on this? It can't. That is why soil erosion is such a big problem. It takes thousands, even millions of years for earth to be formed, for soil to be formed. It can take up to 1,000 years for to form 1 inch of soil. It can be eroded within a year. It can be eroded much faster. Okay, so erosion is a big problem, especially when there are no trees, when there is no wind breaking. When trees can break wind, यानी वो storms वगैरह आते हैं desert वगैरह में, तो they can stop soil from moving here and there. That is also one way plants can ensure that erosion doesn't happen. Vegetative cover of soil also helps in water percolation into deeper layers. Soil की fertility maintain करने के लिए and to ensure that plants can grow properly, you need to have certain amount of water in it. And vegetative cover ensures कि वो पानी उसमें जाता है. So what have we learned? We have learned that an increase in the content of harmful substances in air is called air pollution. There are biological indicators of pollution such as lichen. I'm going to going really fast now. Water is extremely important for life as all cellular processes happen in water. Pollution is caused by addition of undesirable substances, removal of desirable substances, or change in temperature. Soil is formed by the weathering of rocks by sun, water, wind, or biological processes. It is a mixture which has different sized particles and organic material. Soil erosion happens when the fertile topsoil is removed by wind or water, etc. And plants prevent erosion. So this is for the second chapter. It's been a long video, so I'm just going to wrap it up quickly. If you like this video, if you don't understand anything, please go through it again. If you still don't understand, please email us. We will be able to explain to you, or just comment below. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. Please share it with your friends. And if you please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Please press the bell icon in order to be notified every time we upload new videos. So I will see you for the third part. For now, I bid you goodbye.